Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and on The Next Right Thing with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai, we're going to be talking about this week's crazy meme. It's going to be great. They're going to be tackling a 12th century prophecy of the supposed last pope. Good morning, Debbie and Adam.
Well, thank you so much, Keith. Adam and I love The Next Right Thing, and we try to pick segments every single day that are really relevant to what we're doing here on Morning Joy, and also to explore what's happening in the world and what's going on and things that are trending. So we decided to add this segment, and Adam came up with it. I thought it was brilliant, and we actually floated it to the show team, and everybody liked it. It's a meme of the week, where we take that crazy meme of the week and we really tear it apart, actually, because it's so crazy. It can make people really start fighting and start believing it, and it's so wrong on so many levels. So what do you say, Adam? What's the crazy meme of the week this week?
This week, Deb, because we have the sad passing of Pope Francis, we, as with the death of every pope, we see revived the perennial idea that the end is near, the sky is falling, Jesus is about to return, the world's going to blow up. And, this is something that actually ever since the time of Paul writing letters to people back in the first century, people have been saying, well, this generation must be the last one. My generation must be the last one. And it's been said when the world wars happened, so many people around the world, when World War I happened, which at the time was just called the Great War because there hadn't been a second one, so they just called it the Great War. When World War I happened, a lot of people said this must be the end of the world. Like, we've never seen anything like this, And then when World War II happened, they said, oh, this must be the end of the world.
Right,
Hitler must be the Antichrist. And then the Dust Bowl happened in the United States, and around 7 million people just went missing and basically were lost to history in some way or another, and all the crops died, and so many people said, this must be the end of the world. This is a chastisement sent from God. And on and on and on. And, Deb, it's like it's part of the way our minds work. Like, I think at the deep level, and it's probably too deep for a quick morning show, but I think at a deep level, when we fear our own mortality, in a strange way, we almost want to believe it's the end times.
So that we all go together?
So that we all go together.
Yeah.
And I'm not just going to leave this world and it'll keep on rolling without me. I think that's the deeper level of it on a psychological level.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. That's why there's a sense of security in that. If we all go together, then death doesn't seem so frightening.
Right.
Yeah.
So here we are. As each pope passes, we get a revival of a few things. So of course, there'll be little drama, like, oh, there's this conspiracy about who's going to be elected, and they've got this agenda and that agenda, and that stuff always happens. That's kind of boring in comparison. But we've got two. So let's go back to one that I would say probably, is a meme of the week because it's revived every time a pope dies. And that's St. Malachy's supposed prophecy that was published in 1595. Have you heard of this one, Deb?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It was circulating, and oh, go ahead. I want you to explain it to our audience, but also let's kind of go into the details of this because it's very interesting.
Yeah. So this first appears in 1595 or so, and by appears, it's first published in 1595. Now, we don't know exactly who wrote it. The scholars aren't sure about who wrote it, but it's attributed to St. Malachy. Now, St. Malachy was back in the 12th century. So he was summoned to Rome. That part seems to be legitimate. In 1139, he had something to do in Rome. And the supposed story is, he has some kind of vision. goes into some kind of state and has a vision about all of the popes till the end of time, and writes basically a line or so of Latin about each pope in very kind of symbolic and visual and flowery language.
And cryptic, very cryptic.
Yeah, so, you know, you laugh, right? Ironically, the accuracy for the popes up till 1595 is shockingly good. Now, this, of course, was attributed to somebody who was writing them down in 1139. And so if you believe that they were written in 1139 and not 1595, you would say, wow, from, all the popes from 1139 to 1595, these are spot on. Boy, the rest of this, almost certainly must be true. How could it be that he knew all these things? And of course, the answer is it was written in 1595, and the person knew who the previous popes were going back to then and wanted to make it look legit. So attributed it to somebody back in the 12th century, in 1139. Now, what are some of the problems with this? Well, one, we don't know who wrote it. Two, it doesn't seem to appear anywhere, and nobody seems to reference the existence of this document before 1595. There was a biographer of St. Malachy, who was a contemporary of St. Malachy, living at the same time, who, out of anybody, probably knew the most about St. Malachy. Never mentions this prophecy, never mentions him having a vision, writing this down, any of that. So there's a number of holes in this. Okay, so what are the specifics, and why do people get excited about this in, recent generation or so? Well, and again, it's kind of like the Nostradamus stuff. It's very flowery, very vague. And so if you think about it long enough, you can play mental gymnastics and say, okay, it fits. So it seems, if you count the number of popes, if you just do the numbers, that there would be Pope Benedict and then the final pope after, which would be Pope Francis. And when Pope Francis was elected, if you remember, this was the meme of the week then too, because everybody was saying, oh, this is the final pope. St. Malachy's prophecy, and this is the pope that's going to oversee the end times, and Rome's going to be destroyed, and there's all these references, and it hooked in a little bit with the Third Secret of Fatima, which had a symbolism in it of Rome being kind of destroyed, and so it kind of linked in. Now, of course, people have been, predicting and thinking about Rome being destroyed forever because it's the eternal city. It was the capital of the Roman Empire. It was, the most important city in the world for a long, long time. So it's no surprise people like to talk about that. Okay, so it would be Pope Benedict, and then Pope Francis would be the last one. And people played mental gymnastics and eventually found a way to convince themselves that his name was Peter, based on his birth name. And said, okay, he's going to be the person that's in office when the end times happens. And of course, here we are, Deb. Sadly, Pope Francis just died. The world has not ended. And so is he not Peter the Roman? And what's already started is the mental gymnastics of, well, he never said that there wouldn't be any popes in between, Benedict and the Peter the Roman. Maybe, just because he didn't say there weren't any, maybe there are, and he just didn't mention them. Like, people are trying to find a way to make this work, which is kind of sad. And I know it's like entertainment, kind of like horoscopes are for most people, right? They kind of just like to play with these ideas. But it's also kind of sad because the real mission of the church, the real mission of the popes, is conversion for all of us, for us to make it to heaven. And like we said at the beginning, like, we like to play with ideas of the end times and the end of the world. We always have. And every generation thinks they're in the end times. And this is an example of trying to hook it in with an actual document. But what do you think?
I think people want to try and figure out the future so badly to somehow give themselves an idea to, project to, or to just live out, knowing, like what you said at the beginning of this segment, that if it does indeed happen, that it's the last pope and this is the end, then that's how people will conduct their lives, or they'll look to that, or they'll be able to predict out to predict forward. And it comes with this idea of wanting to know the end of the story before we're ready. And we're not meant to know. You've said this so many times, Adam. Be comfortable with mystery. Be comfortable with not knowing. Trust more. Understand that God has a plan, and to trust in God, and not have that need to control the outcome, and to control the future, and to control all the timing of things. It's really so dangerous, because I've seen this many times in the years that I have been in full-time ministry in the church. People would come into the church, and not into the church, but into sessions for adult faith formation, and they'd come in with a new private revelation, or a prophecy, or some prediction, and they just had to have the answers to it. It was like it was an obsession. It drove the way they lived out their faith life. And I think that when we do that, when we give over to something else that's going to govern us, it really does not allow us to advance spiritually. Now, if God wants to gift a very clear vision, or a very clear prophecy to someone, like I know Padre Pio could see different things, and other saints could as well, that's for a specific reason during a specific time. Okay. And so we know that. But other people, I think we want that so badly that we just have to have the answers. And when the church won't make statements on it, won't confirm it, like they've never done on this Saint Malachy predictions. And it's same with Nostradamus. I mean, you can go on and on, all these people, and then you have modern day prophets that are coming up and saying all sorts of things, and trying to link it to Saint Malachy. But I think it's so dangerous, because it definitely stops the spiritual growth of that person in a way, an aspect of it. Wouldn't you say?
I agree.
I know I was kind of going on a little bit of a kind of a direction there, where I sounded very critical about people that really want to know the future. I'm not critical of what they're trying to do. I just think it's preventing them from really spiritually advancing. I really would love to hear your comments on that.
Well, I would go back to scripture and point out that Jesus was critical of people that wanted to know
that's true.
when things were going to happen. Remember, there's two things that come to mind. One, he talks about being ready for when the bridegroom arrives, and that we want to stand ready and persevere and stay ready as long as it takes. And that could be in the middle of the night. It could be at 4 a.m, but you need to be standing there at the gate with your lamp, and, wearing a clean tunic or robe. And the symbolism of it is always be ready, not just, oh, the bridegroom's coming at 6 a.m. I'm going to sleep till 5:30 and get up and comb my hair, and then I'll jump up and I'll be ready when they arrive, and it'll look like I was ready all night. The second thing is, besides parables like that, when they directly asked, he said, look, nobody knows but the Father when the Son of Man is going to return, when Jesus is going to come back, and warns them to not basically worry about it. Don't pursue it. Now, why might that be? Why would he be? These parables come up, and they come up in the Old Testament. The symbolism of always being ready comes up there too. Why might that be? Well, think about what it does to your spiritual life. If as you said before we went to the break, Deb, I think you were right on. It leads to spiritual damage. It leads to spiritual laziness.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah, like if I know the world's going to end in 2030, well, let's run off and party and sin, and then 3 months before, get straightened out, go to confession, and slide in under the door, right, as it's closing. And that's just not the way to live. And you might say, like, well, okay, if you were a good Christian and you knew that, you would just still live right between now and then. But it would distort the way you live.
Yep.
You know, we're supposed to live in this moment and trust in God. You know, again, Jesus talks about, you know, no, don't worry about tomorrow. You know, God knows your needs before you voice them to him in prayer. You know, look at the birds, they're taken care of and they don't work and worry. He says, like, live today, live in the moment. Don't be anxious about the future.
And he will provide.
And he will provide. And
Yeah.
in other parables conveys that idea of just always be ready. And that way, if the time comes, it comes. You know, here's the thing, Deb. We're all going to have a personal end times. That part we can be sure of. There is going to be some type of communal end time also. But let's be ready for both. Like, just live in a state of grace.
Right.
Be kind. Be charitable as much as you can. And when the time comes, it comes. Whether, you know, whether I fall over from some medical problem tomorrow or live another 30 years, hopefully it doesn't matter.
Right. Right.
You know, yeah, these ideas, they're attractive for the reasons we started with, but I agree with you. I think they're spiritually damaging.
So the portraits of the popes, remember the Basilica of St. Paul outside of the walls, right?
Yes.
Right. They, I remember when we visited in 2013, I think there was only room for, like, I don't know, 6 popes left. And now it's like, I just searched right now, and now there's 26 spaces. So how did that happen? The spaces are multiplying.
Well, I remember, I think it might have been in college, maybe it was high school. But at one point, you know, there was only like 2 left for for a little bit of time. And, you know, the kind of urban legend is you know, when all the medallions are filled with the portrait of the Pope, the world will end. That'll be the final Pope. Yeah. And that comes up like every decade or so.
I know.
Again, every time a Pope dies.
And magically, there's just more room for them.
Yeah. Well, what they do is they put up new empty medallions.
Right.
And now we've got more space.
Exactly.
Which is common sense.
Right. So 26 spaces, they were now predicting when the end is going to come. It's like, it's way out there. It's been pushed out. So I think we got plenty of time.
Well,
but that, yeah.
And the last time this Malachy thing that we've been covering happened, when Francis was elected,
right,
there was the lie that went along with it. There was only 1 space left in the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls.
It's true.
To try to reinforce all this.
Right.
So, yeah, people play with these ideas.
Absolutely. So that's the crazy meme of the week. So don't fall for it, guys. Okay, so I wanted to leave this last couple minutes because Adam and I really wanted to prepare this and the thank yous. We're just so thrilled. A couple years ago, Adam and I received we were recipients of runner-up for a Gabriel Award for the Spirit World. And that was through the Station of the Cross when we were first being produced by the Station of the Cross. That was prior to being heard on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. And since then, our wonderful Guadalupe Radio Network is producing The Spirit World. And our just incredible senior producer, Tim Mott, is our producer. It's being heard, The Spirit World is being heard on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network all over the world. And Adam and I just got word yesterday that we made the finalists for a Gabriel Award this year. And so we are very just humbled and excited and just thrilled that the Spirit World is being recognized by the judges of the Catholic Media Association. So we're just thrilled about that. And then you can't make this stuff up, folks. The awards banquet travels all around the country every single year, and it just so happens to be in Phoenix, Arizona this year in June. So I am going to go in person, hopefully to receive the trophy, and Adam and senior producer Tim will be coming in virtually. They allowed a virtual attendance to the event, and so hopefully God willing, if everybody could pray, we will definitely see the spirit world just expand with more listeners. So that would be wonderful. What do you say, Adam?
I just want to say, congratulations. Just being a finalist, to you, Deb. People may know, this was all your idea in the beginning, and you've been an architect of a number of things, and just good ideas. And I think this shows the fruit of it. That you're good at this, and appreciate GRN. I appreciate Tim doing all the work he's been doing with us for years now, and GRN, putting the submission in. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun.
It's exciting. Yeah.
If it leads to reaching more people in some way, then that's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So thank you to everybody that is loyal, the loyal family of the spirit world. Thank you so very much. We just are beaming from ear to ear. So thank you and tell us in the chats what you think of this new crazy meme of the week. We're going to be grabbing those off of social media and really tearing them apart, because it's not healthy for us. So we'll do the research for you. Okay, Adam, have a beautiful rest of your day. We're going to send it back to our wonderful host, Keith Downey, for the rest of Morning Joy.